got my laces tied. My trusty podcast by my side. If you wanna talk fun, it's the place to be. Yeah, it's the drop, D-R-O-P.
Hey, this is Taylor with Believe in the Run, and I'm here today with a second-time guest on the podcast. The few that have returned to the podcast must mean there's something really intriguing about these athletes and people. And I'm here today with Mary Denholm. She's now a craft athlete. Back when Megan Thomas talked to her a while ago, what year was that? Did he say?
That was 2022.
Okay. And
so 3 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So Mary would have been really focused on the roadside marathon specifically. You're a 2-time Olympic trials qualifier and now turned trail elite Leadville 100 champion in your very short career in trail. Thanks for coming on again, Mary.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me for a second time.
Yeah, and so I know a lot of the listeners who have been listening to The Drop for a while would have listened to your past a little bit, but I would like to get into that a little bit of how you've come to where you are now. Of course, we don't have to dive so deep as you did on those first podcasts. I'd encourage listeners to go back and listen to that. But let's just go back to, you have had a transition period of where you were running and then you weren't running. And now you're obviously running again. Could you go over that a little bit and how that played out in your life?
Sure. So I ran cross country in high school and college. I actually quit after high school. I wasn't going to do it. And then I decided to do it at the last minute. I was more into ski racing. My college was D1 for ski racing, D2 for all other sports. And so I did end up deciding to run cross country as well, Division II at St. Michael's College in Vermont. So I grew up on the East Coast, grew up in Maryland, college in Vermont, moved back to Maryland to go to law school. And that's when I quit running for the second time, was after high school. I went to law school and it was all consuming. After my first year, I worked full time, went to school at night, and I just lost track of being an athlete. And next thing I knew, 6 years had gone by, and I can count on one hand the number of times I ran in 6 years. It was not pretty. And so I started back in 2015 with a road marathon and have been consistent with road marathon until 2024. I did 16 of them during that time, worked my PR down from 3:39 to 2:36. And 2024 is the year that I fully started to do trail and ultra, but the story started with trail well before that for me personally.
Okay.
I, in 2020, had moved to Flagstaff and connected with a group of women friends who to this day are some of my closest friends in the sport. And they were trail runners, and they introduced me to mountain running. They took me into the Grand Canyon. I did rim to rim, rim to rim to rim, ran all around the trails on Flagstaff, like the mountains of Flagstaff. So that was really where it started for me. And then after the pandemic lifted and races came back, I spent a lot of time crewing and pacing friends in the sport. And so I learned a lot about the sport just over the years. And then also I started coaching it before I was doing it myself fully. So while it looks like 2024 was I made this shift, if you actually look back at my Strava, you'll see that I've been doing a lot of mountain running with friends since 2020. So that did help my transition over, because my learning curve had it had already started, that transition for me. And my intention was always to come over and do ultras fully. I just wanted to give myself a shot at that second Olympic trials qualifier at breaking 2:37, because the reality is I saw it when I was a 3:03 marathoner. I was like, I'm going to run under 2:37 one day. And this was 2015, 2016 when I first started back. My PR was a 3:03 at that point. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to break 2:37. And so I did. And I'm glad I gave myself that shot. But I had moved to Colorado in 2022, and I was so tempted to just go fully trail and ultra because the trails here are just amazing. But I was like, if
Yeah.
you don't give yourself the shot that you've been like wanting, like if you don't go for this goal that you set so long ago, you're going to be disappointed. And so I'm really glad that I did that first.
Okay, so I want to go back a little bit too of like when you ran a 303 marathon and then you knew
Mhm.
inside yourself that I can be an Olympic trials qualifier. Like, what kind of feeling was that? Because I know there's a lot of athletes out there that have this like, especially runners are generally optimistic, but it's not just a shot in the dark. Like, could you expand on that feeling a little more?
Sure. I mean, I actually didn't have any data at that time to suggest that I could ever do it. I just said, why not me? Like, I'm seeing other people doing it. Like, why couldn't I necessarily do that with a ton of work and patience? And, like, who knows where 4 years, 8 years could take me if I stay consistent and I just keep trying. So, at that time, when I ran a 303, I did it off of like I think my biggest mileage week was 38 miles. And my longest run was 18. And I did no speed work. And so I was like, maybe if I did these things, this is 2015. This is my
Yeah.
first race back because I had done a marathon in college and it was 3:39 in 2006. Um, and so I said to myself, like, why, who's to say I couldn't achieve that if I like actually committed to this? And I know it's going to take a long time. I just don't know how long it's going to take. And I think it would have happened faster if we hadn't had you know, the timeout, the pandemic that we had in there because I had run 2:42 to qualify for the first trials. And then I ran 2:41 at the Olympic trials in Atlanta. And that was a really hilly course. That told me that there's still a lot of room to go. So, I honestly think that there's not a sport where there's more room for development if you just stay resilient and stay consistent. And like, it wasn't a straight line of PRs either. I
Yeah.
DNF'd, I went backwards. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, each time I line up, I'm getting faster. Like, things happen. I got some bad weather days. I had some rough training cycles, but I just kept saying, like, I know I can keep going and keep doing this. I know, like, if I just keep showing up for myself, like, I'm going to have the day I trained for. I think a lot of people don't have that day and then they retreat. They think they've hit their ceiling. But if you know from like your training and you have this like drive and it's got to come from within you, I honestly think like sky's the limit for so many of us.
I can hear your coach coming out in you for sure. And
Yes.
I'm a coach too. And like it's easy to have that in our head and have this knowledge and see it all in spreadsheets too. But that inner feeling of just like I can, or at least I'm willing to try is huge. And I haven't had the experience of having 6 years off of doing an activity. So like, is there anything in that period of time that you see now has really helped you grow into the person and athlete you are?
From the time off, the 6 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think a couple things. One, I'm just more mature person, which makes me a more mature athlete. Um, my time working hard in law school and being a lawyer taught me like really hard work ethic and like every second of your day is accounted for when you're a lawyer. And when you channel that towards something else, like that work ethic is there. And I also think it gave me longevity in the sport. Like, I'm able to run really high mileage. I'm dealing with an injury and some health issue like right now, but like
Mm-hmm.
when things are smooth, like I'm able to still do a lot of volume, a lot of intensity. And I think a lot of that is because like I haven't just been grinding this whole time. Like, I took a lot of time off. And no, I mean, I don't recommend like 6 years off of like physical activity for anyone, like for your physical or mental health. That's just kind of how it played out for me. And I can't regret my journey because it's what's gotten me to where I am today.
Yeah, and we've been interviewing some really intriguing athletes. Like we had Danny Moreno on, Seth Ruling, and kind of all of you had this extended period of time away from running itself,
Mm-hmm.
and how that it's just interesting how that plays. I know that's just life. Like this is just me thinking out loud. Like that's of course that's just life, and here you are compounding what you did and what had happened, and it rolls into something really beautiful. I mean, like you said, putting that really hard work in and the time, consistency, right? Like that's the biggest winner. Man, thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, end of last year, end of 2024 into early 2025, I was in the best shape of my life at 37, almost 38 years old, like faster than I was in college, faster than I was post collegiately. Like, so like, and there, I'm gonna get back there and then I'm gonna pass it. Like I can already tell, like
Yeah.
I know that. And I'm talking like road fitness too. Like when I was doing a lot of road workouts for JFK 50 last fall, and then also for Black Canyon in February. So like end of last year after Leadville 100, like end of 2024 into early 2025, I was having my best road workouts I'd ever had. And I was like, man, I need to do another road marathon. Like, I'm going to take a chunk of time off. Like, I don't know how long it'll take because you just like never know how the training cycle will go or the day that you choose for your race. But kind of like how I've approached it with, the OTQ goal that I set for myself for like those 2 time standards. I'm like, I know I can take a chunk of time off. And that's exciting because I'm the oldest I've ever been, but I'm also like the strongest and the fittest I've ever been. And while I've like had some stuff come up this year that's like prevented me from training the way I want, I'm like, I know once I can get back to consistency, like I can get that back. And that's an exciting thing.
Is the Olympic trials qualifier for this next cycle? Is that something that's on your mind then? If you're this fit, this ready?
I would say that's a secondary goal for me. I recognize that I need to hit a time I've already hit. I obviously have higher ambitions for myself. I would want to run like more of a PR because I know it's in there. But my primary focus is trail and ultra, and as someone who is older in the sport, right? I'm 38 now. I just feel like I do sense I'm going to run well into my 40s, but I do feel that there's a limited number of like 100s and 100Ks that I can be competitive at. And so that is my focus. I would say my priority is trail and ultra. And if a marathon build fits within a calendar year, I would love to do that because like I'm going to do road workouts whether I'm training for an ultra or not, like to keep that fitness. So it really just would depend on like what my race calendar is and like what my options are and like how everything's going with ultra first.
It, and there's a lot of athletes that we've seen lately, especially on the women's side, and I don't know exactly why that would be, even from like a coaching standpoint. I've been thinking about it of like why and how are there so many women athletes who can transition from the road to the track to the trails, and it all like
Mm.
it works at a really high level.
Yeah.
Have you? I know you've thought about that as an athlete and as a coach, and like why do you
Hmm.
think that is? Like, how are you able to do your best road marathons and also compete at the highest level in 100-mile ultra trail? Like, how does that work as an
Hmm.
athlete?
For me, it's running economy. Like, I respond really well to road workouts and also to doing trail together. And like since 2020, even when I was training for a road marathon, I would get out on trail once, twice, sometimes 3 times a week. It would honestly just depend on like what my road calendar looked like my schedule. But, when I have good turnover and like, good power on road, like that translates to me for trail, especially for like uphill power. So like having a fast threshold like flat translates to like fast uphill, which is like fast threshold effort uphill, for example. So like I can like for me, one of my strengths is climbing, and that makes sense because I have like road speed. So I think that's why you're seeing that carryover for a lot of athletes, and it's why trails getting faster. People are doing speedy things. They're not just like running in the mountains easy all day. Like the sport's changing a lot, and there's a number of factors that are contributing to that. Like obviously, fueling has changed a lot. So has shoe technology, training, all of that. So there's a lot of things coming together. I think people are just like taking better care of themselves in general, right? But I do think that's a big factor as to why trail is just getting faster.
Yeah, and we're seeing like even like youngsters coming right out of college. Like for me, however many 10 years ago, that it still wasn't an option 10 years ago, or not a thing that athletes thought of after college, and certainly not even like 15 years ago when you were coming out of college. So we're just
Mm-mm.
seeing so many different athletes attack trail like never before, and like you said, with all the technology and just experience pays for itself. Like, man, it's just an incredible sport, and it's just getting more and more complex and exciting every day because of athletes like you. You had mentioned that nutrition was a big factor to your running. I see the feed hat. You're obviously a feed athlete and have had
Yes.
some great success because of nutrition. Like, what does that look like for you when you're transitioning from it? And is it different, I guess, from road nutrition to your trail nutrition? That's a big question we get often.
Yeah, so I'm on the feed high performance team, and actually hanging out with trail runners and like all of like their influence with fueling helped me be a better road marathoner. And like when I look back and I qualified, and this was even before I made all the friends I had with trail running, I had like researched fueling because I was having a lot of fueling issues in my early days, and it's part of why I was like struggling to break 3 hours and then like struggling to like improve the sub 3. And I was like, what's like going on? Why am I like crashing and bonking during every race? And so I had discovered like high carb fueling before it was trendy. And so when I look back and I qualified in 2019, I was actually doing 100 grams of carbs per hour in road marathon. I just was counting calories and I wasn't like paying attention to carbs as much, but I was doing it. When I looked back, I was like, oh man, like I was already doing this. Like I found my way to it, and it like changed my training and it changed my racing. I was able to recover faster, just like do more volume, do more intensity, and like be pretty injury resilient during that time, and then race more often. I mean, I raced 5 marathons in 14 months and I PR'd in all but one of them. And I was
Whoa.
fine. And then the pandemic hit and I got a timeout, which is probably the timeout I needed. I was probably about to like implode because like that's so many road marathons. Um, but, and then in my time in Flagstaff, like, I learned so much from my friends in the sport and also helping others at ultras that I realized that like really ultras are just an eating contest. Like you just, if the more you can take in, it's going to like help you. I mean, obviously I think there's like a return at some point. You don't want to overfuel either, but for the most part, the more you can take in, the better you're going to feel out there. And the one thing that I wish I had done earlier is I wish I had done a sodium loss test, because that was something in making a transition that really did impact me, was not taking in enough sodium. Like I was good for carbs, but then once you get past like couple hours of running, you get to like 6-7+ hours of running. Like if your sodium isn't dialed, your electrolytes aren't dialed, you can have a crash that feels like a almost like a bonk that from like not taking in carbs, and be really out of your mind, because that happened to me. And I was like, I need to get this figured out. And then I come to find out that like I am very high sodium loss. And those are things that I think honestly would have helped me in more hot, humid road marathons earlier had I known that. So like, for example, Orlando, not my place to do a race. Like, but had I known, I might have been able to fuel differently and I might have had not as bad of a day. I'll put it that way. Like, I still don't think I would ever have my best race in a place like Orlando, just like knowing my physiology, but like maybe not as bad. Because like same thing, like grandma's marathon, like twice. So I raced it in 2019 and then again in 2023. They were OTQ attempts for each cycle. And I ended up with like a 70-degree, 100% humidity day. And, that last few miles, it was like, that's not your marathon pace today. And like, just try to like get to the finish. And I was like crashing and like not feeling well and throwing up. And it's like, well, honestly, I think part of that could have been sodium. And I'd be curious to honestly do another one and see, like, ideally my day would be 40 degrees, not a problem.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
if I had a hotter
Us
one, I'd be
mountain
like
folk.
curious. Yeah, no, I'd be curious to see if I could do better in that climate, like with more intentional sodium intake and fluid intake in addition to carbs.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a similar experience because I got the sodium test done. And I found out the level of sodium that I was losing per liter of sweat and all that kind of stuff. And then I wasn't actually as heavy of a salty sweater as I thought I was.
So lucky. You're so lucky.
Well, I'm still in like that heavier range, but I wasn't. I was losing more water than I thought because we're in a drier climate. And so like that, I would vouch for that test too as an athlete and a coach of like, that was like a piece I was missing for so long. And then once I was able to get it, sodium was one thing, but also the amount of liquids I was losing, like huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I can imagine
Well,
at your pace and in those hot, humid, I just came back from Minnesota and oh my gosh, I remember why I don't
Well, I
live
was
there
just in
anymore
Oklahoma
because,
and I was like drenched. Yeah, I was
oh
like
yeah,
drenched within a mile and I was like running easy and I was like, my God, I forgot
yeah.
about how like oppressive it is. And like, the East Coast this time of year is one of the
Oh,
hardest places to be a runner, no
disgusting.
question. So is the Midwest.
Yeah. I mean, fist bumps for living in Colorado, huh?
Right. But to your point, like with actual water loss, like sweat loss, not sodium loss, you know, that's going to differ based on a different climate. So, like, and we may be
hmm
sweating in a place like Arizona or Colorado and not realize how much we're actually losing. It's when you go down to another place that's like sea level, more humid, your clothes are sticking to you, it's not just like evaporating, that it really can be informative of, whoa, I'm actually losing a lot every hour that I'm out here.
So, what's your ideal race in climate then? Like, what gets you excited?
Somewhere at high altitude where it's like 40 degrees.
Okay, so that's
Please.
why Leadville really worked, huh?
Hmm.
So
Yeah. And it
so
did get hot in the middle of the day. It got up to like
yeah.
79 and on Hope Pass and like 80s in Twin Lakes. But, when I lived up there to train for it and I did some of my runs in the middle of the day and I felt very prepared for it. Like you can adjust to your climate. It takes me like some time to do that just because I am a more heat sensitive athlete. I think I just need to like expose myself to it.
I'm gonna have to pick your brain because I'm doing Leadville this year too, and JFK like you
Oh,
did
that's
last
awesome.
year, and so we'll have to have another
Great
conversation
lineup.
outside of this. Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. We'll see.
We'll
So
go for a
then,
run. We can talk all things Leadville and JFK.
exactly. Well, yeah, let's do that soon because it's really coming up. But just looking at your last year's results, 2024, huge
Mm-hmm.
year for you as an athlete. Like athlete and as a person, I mean, signing on with Kraft, you had Olympic
Hmm.
trials qualifier, you had to qualify to get into Leadville with the Silver Rush, right? Or did you have
Hmm.
something a coin beforehand? Okay,
So I did the marathon, and then that's a really hard race. Like it has almost like the same amount of elevation as Silver Rush 50, and I did them bound back to back weekends. So I technically got the
oh,
coin at
you
the
did.
marathon. Yeah. So I technically got the coin at the marathon, and then the like 7 days later, did Silver Rush 50.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I mean, Leadville is a pretty prestigious event and place within our sport. Town sits at just above 10,000 feet. I can't remember, it was last year that really snowy year for the marathon? It was, okay, it was the
No,
year
it
before.
had all melted. So the year I did it, sometimes they can't go as high because of the
Yeah,
snow and they have to adjust the course down. And this is why they really were like, they thought I had run a course record, and then it took them like weeks to figure out that like I actually maybe hadn't by like a minute. So they often have to move it down because of snow, but it had all melted. So we did the full course like up to Mosquito Pass, which is
yeah,
13, and back down. Yeah.
yeah. So you're just going from town, and it's not on the same Leadville course. It's the opposite side of town up to Mosquito Pass, which is
Hmm.
like runnable, but a tough run up to that pass. So, did that set you up really well? Do you feel like I know you'd had some trail experience before that, but you pretty much did the lead man experience, which doing the
Not
marathon, the
quite.
50, not quite, but pretty much, and then doing the 100 all in the same year. Of like, how did that secession happen for you, and how did that go? I mean, we could look at
I mean,
results,
I
obviously.
loved
Well,
it. Yeah, I loved it. I thought both were great. And I mean, especially the 50. You know, so the marathon is, I think, 63 or 6,400 feet of elevation. And then the 50 is like 7,400 or something
again,
like
all
that,
above
76.
10,000 feet.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so, doing those and feeling as good as I did. And like that, both of those, my fueling went like according to plan and everything was good. And I felt like that was such a good, like, dry run of my fueling strategy and like feeling out like what my efforts are at altitude, at a high altitude. So having both of those go well, like I felt really solid with my fueling plan. I fueled exactly the same way going into the 100. And felt like they were the best training I could have to know, like, okay, so this is a marathon, this is like harder effort, right? And like, you're not going to do that times four in the 100. And then here's the 50. It's like, and when I finished the 50, I was like, okay, I could keep going. Like, I'm glad it's over, but like, I could keep going. And I was like, this gives me a ton of confidence to know that like, I'm doing a good job of feeling out like what's a sustainable effort for myself for various distances, like at this high altitude where like my goal
Mm-hmm.
100 is. And so, I think that's something that really gets people, especially people who don't spend time at 10,000 feet. Like that's almost, it's like a mile higher than where I live, like
Yeah.
in, the Denver metro area. So like, if you don't know how things are going to feel up there, like I think it just ends up being a very punishing second half of the race for people. And I think that's also why a lot of people will DNF like Winfield or Twin Lakes inbound, because they're like toasted. They don't understand how like that high altitude cumulatively can impact you if you're not racing within yourself. And so I felt like those were the best training I could have for the 100. And like to have my fueling go finally according to plan, because I had the sweat loss test information and I used no caffeine. That's another thing for me. I literally cannot tolerate caffeine. When I tried to bring it back in this fall, it backfired on me at JFK. Like I just am too sensitive to it. And I drank my morning coffee, but I just like I can't do it with like gels or chews. I've tried so
Yes.
many products. But all summer, like my best races, without question, no caffeine. I did use a tiny mitt at like mile 80 of the 100, but it was cooler. The intensity was so low. The race is almost over. But like otherwise, I didn't use it, didn't feel like it was benefiting me.
So then was that your first 50, the Silver Rush?
Mm-hmm. It was,
Wow.
yes.
Whoa. Okay. Because I remember, like, I watched the kind of the live feed and live results for both of those, us trail running nerds, and I had known of you because Megan and Thomas had interviewed you. I've been a trail guy like pretty much ever since college, so I keep up a little bit on the marathon, but really I only knew
Yeah.
of you because of being an Olympic trials qualifier. But you were a major standout. Like the live chat was just like, who is this Mary Denholm? And obviously you've had some experience in running. Like, what was that transitioning from Olympic trials qualifier in just a few months, really, to being a trail athlete? At that time, did you know you were going to be a time trail athlete? Was that the goal, or were you just kind of trying this out to see where it was going?
No, this is what I've wanted to do for years. I just wanted to achieve a certain goal on the roads first, and I was committed to seeing that through. That's like who I am as a person. I was loyal to myself and the goal that I set so long ago. Like, that's for every 303 marathoner out there who dreams of an OTQ, or wherever you are, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, like, stick to it. Just keep going, keep trying. Like those long-term goals you set that you finally achieve that can like sometimes make you feel a little crazy and you're like, am I actually going to be able to do this, are so rewarding when you finally do them. And so I planned to come over to trail, and I was like, it did like there I loved my training so much last year. The race result is like completely separate from me. As long as I enjoy what I'm doing and I love my training, like that's what I do every day. And like even if I race like 5, 6 times a year, you train so much more than you race, right? And so like for me, I find so much like value, like intrinsically in doing the training and loving what I do every day, that like the race result is its own category. Like I care about races. They give my training a purpose, but like I don't tie like my self-worth into a result. And so like that, like I care about them, of course. I put a lot of work
Yeah.
into them, but like that's not where my identity lies. And maybe because of like how running has been different things for me in my life. Like, when I started back in 2015, it's like it was to de-stress before work as a lawyer. right? Or after work as a lawyer. And then somewhere along the way, I set these goals of like, let's BQ, let's OTQ. And like, it's just kind of been a transition for me, bridge to friendships all over the world. Also, just like during really tough stuff I went through in my personal life, like divorce, death of my father, like, it's been so many things for me over the years that like for me, it's like I just want to feel good and enjoy my training. And then the race is going to take care of itself. And like, even if a race doesn't go well, like I'm going to try again, I'm going to try another one. And so for me, I just want to love what I'm doing every day. That's like the most important thing. And so, regardless of how the races I chose last year played out, I was here. Like, I'm fully in the trail world. I loved my training for Leadville. Had the 100, had the race not gone well, I would still be a trail runner. Like I'm just like I'm here. So, and it's the same thing with like road or trail, whatever you're training for. Like even if it doesn't go well at first, that doesn't mean it's not meant for you. Like if you really enjoy something, stick with it, see it through. At the end of the day, it's for you and about you only.
Boom. What else do we need to say? Like, I mean, that's awesome of like speaking with some elite athletes, like there's so much pressure even on the trail side now. Like it's just refreshing to hear you talk about how much of this is for you and that obviously results matter. You're an athlete, right? But it's not the end all be all, and it's what you do on a daily basis. Passion, it's just fun to see passion no matter what realm it is. So thanks for sharing about that. There's a lot of people who consider the trails. Obviously, many people get their start in road running or track. Do you have any like little tips that you might give as an athlete or as a coach to maybe like two tips if someone wants to get into trails a little bit?
Sure. Start small. Like start with like less technical, like easy runnable trails. And then like just be curious and explore. And, one of the things that road runners need to accept is like power hiking is part of it. Like you are often more efficient if you just like allow yourself to hike sometimes and then use the more runnable like flats and downs. And so like when you're making that transition, don't feel discouraged if you have to hike a little more. Like it's a different type of running economy and fitness and like your body's going to get used to it. But like don't stress over what the paces are on the watch. Don't worry about it. Like just get out there and enjoy running in a pretty place, having a different experience than just like running flat. And I also encourage you to get out in the trail running like world and community, like go to races, talk to people, see it happening live, learn from others, because that helps you when you go to do it yourself.
And one thing that many are surprised with when they come over to the trail of like, obviously fitness can help. And having that base level of just self-awareness of what you can and can't do or want to explore and try. But there's also like a skill level. There's a skill asset that there's a toolbox you can build. What were some of the challenges in terms of like skills for you coming over from road running when you started into trail running?
Descending, like with my alpine skiing background, I should be able to just like send it down these trails. But like maybe it's because I'm older. I'm just like, that seems fast and scary,
Yeah.
and I would like to hobby jog down this. Thank you very much. So, like falls are going to happen. But a friend of mine who's a very accomplished show runner said to me, look where you want to place your foot. Don't look at hazards. Don't look at, where you like, don't think like, oh, if I step there, I'm going to roll an ankle because guess what? Like thoughts become things. And like, so like that piece of advice stuck with me was like, look where you like want to step and like, just like be smooth. But yeah, I mean, descending is still something that I'm working on becoming better at. I'm definitely getting better at it. But yeah, I think there's things like all of us, we have strengths and weaknesses, and it's important to work on your weaknesses, not just be like, oh, well, I'm not a good descender, so like whatever. It's like, no, like work on it and like don't have this narrative for yourself. Like be open to it's like you're going to get better at it. So I always try to like approach it with like, I just need to work on this. And like, I like a good challenge. Like, will I ever be the best ascender? Probably not. But like, I'm going to continue to be the best ascender I can be and putting myself on terrain that like makes me feel uncomfortable. And this is what I did with skiing too. It was like, you know, I did the more technical events in college. I did downhill a couple times, but like it definitely scared me. But then when you did the not slower, but like more technical events, so you're not carrying as much speed, like it makes it not as scary. So if you put yourself in training on like what I would consider like more technical terrain, then you're going to race it like or do a workout, like it helps that not feel as scary. And so it's about helping yourself get out of your comfort zone and not just sticking to what's like safe. And like it's not always easy to do, but you know, that's my advice.
You might be sick of talking about the Leadville 100 by now after almost a year. Coming back to that day, what were some of, I'd just like to hear your thoughts around it, like coming into it, like, again, it's such a prestigious race, and for your first 100 to step up to the plate and take a big swing, and like it really worked out for you. Like, what was that whole day like? Because I know that was really big for you as an athlete and just like where you're at today, that particular performance.
Sure. So high altitude is my jam. Like my body feels so good up there. I adapt really quickly. Historically, like I run just really well up there, like period. And living up there, doing the two races that I did, the marathon and the 50, and doing all kinds of workouts. I mean, yeah, when my coach would give me a workout that's like marathon or threshold, 8,000 feet, I wasn't that far off when I was in Buena Vista. I was there first, and then I extended my time in Leadville. When I got up to 10,000 feet, it was like, okay, you're definitely not as fast for like sustained tempos at like marathon or threshold effort. But I still was hitting really good stuff up there. And so, you know, all the credit to my coach, Matt Daniels. He's the one who told me it was in my range to go and like take down Ann Treason's record, and I didn't. I was 16 minutes off of it, but a lot of the race I was on it, and so the training told me I was ready to have a really good day, and I felt very confident in it. Obviously, you never know, like weather's always a factor at these high altitude races. Like, you know, had a storm come through, it could have had a very different result, but I felt very confident that I was ready to have like a really good race. And I was just very careful about not running too fast. I used heart rate as a guide. The first 50K, I mean, I'm on video, it's on my Instagram where I come through and I tell my crew, I feel so controlled. And I technically PR'd my 50K because I haven't raced a 50K. So I set my 50K PR, I think at the 50, and then I ran like, it was like 4:30 at Leadville, coming through. And you know, when I got to my crew, I was like, I feel so controlled. My heart rate's been like 130s, 140 on the climb. Like I feel like I could do this all day. I feel great. And I mean, my goal going into the race was I wanted it to feel like I was just going for a very long, easy run until it got mechanically hard. And that's exactly what happened. Like it never felt like I was overreaching in any way. Part of me looks back like, could you have found 16 minutes? But I can't do that because say I did push and then I imploded. Like, you know, it's like unproductive to think that way. But my goal was like, I just want to feel as in control of this race for as long as possible because it was a big unknown. It was my first one. Like, you know, it's double the distance of any race I've ever done before. Longest time out there. I tried not to think about like all the things that could go wrong because that could drive you crazy and make you like a serious head case. Instead, I focused on all the things I was in control of and that I knew would go right. And I felt very just relaxed and dialed. I truly was not nervous for this race. I really don't get nervous for any races anymore. And I just was like, you're ready for this. You know, 6 months ago, I was like, am I ready to do 100? Like, that's a scary thought. And like, even when I got the coin at the marathon, I was like, seems like a long distance, but it's like, okay, let's do the training first. And like, you see plenty of other people doing 100. Like, why can't you do it too? So just kind of grounded myself in that. But, you know, I felt very in control of the whole race. And then, like, mechanically, it just, your body's like, we're still running. So it's like, I just felt like sore, fatigued in my hips, but like cardiovascularly and energy wise, like steady all day. I felt great. Only really had one little low point, which was like after the 100K where I picked up my pacer, my first pacer. There was like a 10-mile section where I was like, well, we're still running. And I was like, so I've done 60 something miles and I still have over a 50K. And I was like, don't even think about it. Like, you just like,
Yeah.
that's not a productive thought. And then once I got to like 75, like I had a little bit of coffee at the aid station and I was like, oh, it's 25. That's like a standard long run. Like, that's less than a road marathon. Like, I feel great. And so it's like fine. But I mean, both my pacers were wonderful. My crew was awesome. Like, I had the best group of people helping me, and two of them were some of my original running friends from Flagstaff. So it was very special to have them helping me with my first 100. So I had a great day. Ran every step of the final climb to the finish. Like, like I only
Whoa.
power hiked really like sections of Hope Pass, and it was because on the backside it was really hot. Carry a filter. This was my mistake. I
Okay.
had two handhelds, and because it was like 79 degrees as I was going up and it's totally exposed, you cross two streams. And I remember I ran into Zoe Rom and she had a filter, and I was like, that would be helpful right now. And so, like, I was running out of fluids and I was getting hot. And I was like, if you force this run right now, you might like overheat and like regret that. And so I ended up hiking more of the backside of Hope Pass than I wanted. And that's where I slipped off my pace, was the backside of Hope Pass. It took me like longer than it should have. When I had like calculated splits, I was on it except for that last section. And I know if I'd had a filter and I'd been able to drink like multiple bottles going up that, not just two, I might have had a very, like, I suspect I would have held a better pace going up that, which would have meant at least less time behind the CR. But again, just lessons learned and things I'll remember for future ones. But overall, like, I had a little bit of a stomach issue early on. I realized I was overfueling because I was running so easy and it was a cooler time of day. So I just like pulled it back and I recovered right away, and then got my fueling back up as the intensity kind of increased gradually and the temperature of the day increased. But overall, like, it was truly a race that I felt very in control of from start to finish. So one of those really good days that you got to remember and just cherish, because some days are going to be a grind.
Yeah, totally. Are you intrigued about finding those 16 minutes out there on that course?
I've had a lot of people ask me that, and I don't want to say yes or no, other than I feel very satisfied with my Leadville chapter. And if I didn't ever find myself on that start line again at the 100, I wouldn't have regret. Like, my summer in Leadville last year was just like a dream summer. Like, I enjoyed living high, I enjoyed the training. Those three races, I just like executed. Like, it just felt so good to just like execute my training, execute my race, execute my training, execute my race, like the way I wanted. And so, I could go back and it could be a totally different experience. I'd be like, why did I come back
Yeah,
to this race? Why couldn't you just leave it? And I'm not a huge fan of doing the same race multiple times.
that was my next
And
question.
part of that, yeah, and part of that is just like, and it's the same thing with road marathon. Like, I've gone to CIM 3 times because of like, I'm coming here for a time goal. CIM delivers, but I just feel like there's like other races that I want to experience. And so, like, I just want to explore that. And I'm not saying I wouldn't go back, but I just don't feel like I have anything to prove, or I have like unfinished business there. I had such a great first 100 that like I just am really proud of that day. And I know someone's going to take down that course record, and I'll be cheering for them when it happens, whether that's someone
Yep.
else or that's me. So yeah, it's exciting, and it's crazy that like it stood for as long as it has. I mean, respect to Ann Treason and for when she said it too. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
So then looking ahead, like you have your second 100 miler
Mhm.
on it's in your calendar. I saw it on Ultra Sign Up with Run Rabbit Run. And I
Yes.
think, obviously going for Black Canyon, you had hopes of being at Western States too. So those two races are intriguing to you, but very different 100 milers. So then you've been dealing with some injuries and some setbacks this year. And so you had to
Mhm.
pivot, of course. And then having this Run Rabbit Run, which I think is still, I mean, aside from sponsorship, details of like, I think it's still the biggest prize purse in the world for trail running. Not many people
It's
know that.
big.
And
Hmm.
so like that's exciting. Like you're a professional athlete living this life out as a professional trail runner, which just sounds wild these days, but you can do it because of races like this and sponsorships.
Yeah.
But I get the hunch
Very
that the
grateful.
prize purse isn't the only reason you're going for Run Rabbit.
That's correct. I've I've done race for a number of years. I was out there helping a friend who did it last year, and so I've wanted to do it just on its own. And I also really, really want to race Hard Rock. That is a goal race for me, and Run Rabbit is a Hard Rock qualifier. So Leadville is not. So that's why I wanted to do a different 100 this year. And yes, I do want to race my way into Western States at some point. That is a goal. I also want to race CCC and UTMB. Those are big goal races for me as well. And so this is also why, when people ask me like, "Are you going to go back to Leadville?" I'm like, "Well, I have a list of races that like I want to do." And so, I just want to have those experiences too, like the big ones here in the U.S., like, and also internationally.
Yeah, and because like nowadays of like they're so popular and so competitive, like those are hard races like you have to qualify for as an elite athlete, but also there's just like so many people out there wanting to do these ones as well. And so like that could be years and years of endeavors, really. So
True.
is Hard Rock kind of like the pinnacle for you? Like that's the one that the big race I would really love to get into, or like what else is on your
I would
list?
say, yeah. So those ones that I just mentioned are all up there together. But definitely Hard Rock. I mean, it's here in Colorado. It's high altitude. I love, and I want to do the more mountainous 100s. That's what appeals to me the most. So that's why Hard Rock, UTMB, CCC are top of my list. Western States is there too. It's iconic. It's a bucket list race. The history of that race makes me want to do it. But I would say those are like the main ones that appeal to me that I want to do in the next few years.
In such a there's just such a variety in terms of the types of trails that you're running within those races.
Mhm.
So like even now, like as you're focused on a 100 mile trail effort coming up, you're still running roads. You're doing some faster
Mhm.
workouts. Um, what kind of footwear are you wearing? Obviously, craft is a up and coming trail.
Mhm.
It's always had its place in sport, but in terms of running, both road and trail, they've really upped their game in the last few years and brought you on as an athlete, many other incredible athletes around the world. So, like, what are your favorite pieces of, excuse me, what are your favorite shoes that you're wearing and pieces of gear that you're taking out day after day?
Well, and Craft was new to me as a apparel brand. I mean, and as a shoe brand last fall. Like I've always loved their
Mm-hmm.
apparel, and interestingly enough, like I used to ski in some of their apparel, like
Yeah.
back in the day. And so when I had started discussions with them, like last August, September, they sent me a box of shoes, like a variety of shoes for me to run in. For me, it's so important to love your shoes. I have great foot health. Like if you don't like your shoes or you're slipping on the trails, like that's not okay. So loved their shoes. It was a no-brainer to sign with them. Like their grip on trail is the best. Like loose dirt, I'm secure. And for someone who's like, I actually realized I was like, I'm actually better at descending than I thought. Like, a lot of it's like, is your shoe supporting you, especially when you get on steep stuff?
Yeah.
So to answer your question, for road shoes, I love the Craft Endurance as like a standard everyday trainer. I ran in that this morning. I was on just like a flat urban trail that's dirt near my house. I love the we Americans pronounce it the Kype Pro, which is their carbon shoe. They pronounce it differently in Sweden. But that I tried for the first time at New York City Marathon last fall. I did JFK in it, like the road portion. I've had my best road workouts like all winter. Like I said, I was in the best road shape I've ever been in that shoe, and it makes me want to do a road marathon. I love it. Um, so I'm in that shoe for road workouts. And then for trail, I love, they just came out with the Pure Trail Pro. That is the best grip I've felt for like loose dirt and technical terrain. Like that grip, and it was advertised that way too. It's like, this is our
Yeah.
best grippy shoe. Totally accurate. Um, I've loved it. Like, I don't know about it for being like 100 mile shoe, but I would absolutely race like a 50K in it.
Yeah.
Maybe even 50 mile if it's like techie. But what I've loved is the Nordlead Ultra and the Pro version of that. That is what I've done most of my training in for trail, standard, easy, long runs, workouts. And then Craft is making a carbon trail prototype that we are in the process of like doing some runs in and like giving feedback on, which is really cool and really exciting. So I'm curious to see like where that technology will go, because I haven't trained or raced in a carbon trail shoe.
Yeah, and I mean that just kind of speaks volume to where this sport is now and where it's going because of all this investment. You don't get great gear like this without it being a popular thing with people. And so yeah, the Craft really does have a really nice quiver of shoes these days. And I mean I saw that prototype on Eden Nielsen at Western States and kind of like salivating over it as a gear junkie. So it's exciting to see that. Yeah. And that you as an athlete are excited about what you're wearing and feel confident in it. Like that speaks volumes to who they are. And they like, I know a big part of them creating a big team is that they have all this knowledge and experience to pull from too, as they're developing gear. So that has to feel pretty good as an athlete. Well, Mary, there's a lot to look forward to seeing you on the trails. Like you're a brand new athlete in a lot of ways for the trail. So we're just excited to see where these next seasons and chapters take you as a professional trail athlete. But thank you so much for coming on the drop with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Give a good stretch, got my laces tied. My trusty podcast